Welcome. You're listening to the Best of Investing. This is the show where we present valuable information about real estate, the financial markets, and other economic business of the day. For those of you listening for the first time, here's our format. A few guys sitting around a bar having drinks without the drinks, talking business with you, the audience listening in. I'm your host, Edward Brown, and I'm joined in the studio with my co-host, Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money, California's premier private lender. Our phone number is 888-912-1190. Write that number down, 888-912-1190, because you're going to use that number to answer the trivia questions for 3 vacations given away during each commercial break. That's right, we're giving away 9 vacations during this show. The vacations are sponsored by Lighthouse Resort and Marina, located 1 hour northeast of San Francisco, and today's trivia theme is death on TV shows, episodes where an actor was knocked off. I figured, hey, since we have an attorney as a guest, why not?
It's not sports, and Brian isn't here today.
No, exactly. Too bad. He would have liked this. Okay, the vacations are free, and their only request is a $75 cleaning fee to cover housekeeping expenses. Their website is lighthouseforfun.com. You can reach them at 916-777-5511. Our website is bestofinvesting.com. Check us out on Facebook and YouTube by typing Best of Investing Radio Show. Also, if you want to record our show in the future, if you can't listen live, go to a website called dar.fm, type in The Best of Investing, and listen to our show at your leisure. Another reminder about World Wraps in Corte Madera and Santa Clara is still giving our listeners a free smoothie with purchase of a wrapper bowl if you mention The Best of Investing. Go there for lunch today. Best wraps in town. And at one of the commercial breaks, I'm going to announce the winner to this special trivia contest sponsored by the beautiful Sonoma Mission Inn. It is a fantastic place. Mark, do you remember it?
Absolutely. Yes, I've stayed there with my wife. It was lovely.
Okay. And today's guest is Peter Lagarias, an attorney who specializes in class action suits. Peter, welcome to the Best of Investing.
Thank you very much, Edward.
Hey, so Peter, how does one go about starting a class action suit, and why do most people start one to begin with as opposed to just, say, file a lawsuit against a company they feel has wronged them?
Well, a class actions is a procedural advice which is available in courts for cases that are close to each other with a large number of people having the same problem having occurred. It's efficient for the courts, it's efficient for the individuals involved, and it saves a lot of wear and tear from all concerned if it's done properly.
Okay, and I'm going to put you on the hot seat a little bit here because, we all hear about these class action suits and the attorneys making millions of dollars, and the people who are parties to it get, $10, $5, $20. How do you justify that?
Well, you have to look at the individual cases to determine what's happening, but all attorneys, in almost all instances, when attorney's fees are awarded to the attorneys who handled for a plaintiff in a class action, who handled the action, a court will be approving those attorney's fees. And if you take a big picture look, you can compare the defense side of these cases, where the defense lawyers are typically being paid at a very high rate the entire way through the case, and the plaintiff's lawyers are often on a contingency fee basis. And these cases may take years with enormous amount of activity and large numbers of attorneys being involved to bring the case to fruition. And at the very end, if they reach a settlement or win a trial, they will petition the court for fees, and the court will review what the attorneys did, what their hourly rate is, and approve a fee application.
Well, I guess it's not like one attorney who is going around to 200 different participants, right? I mean,
Or more like 2,000.
or 2,000 or 50,000, depends on how large the case is.
The cases can be very large, and one of the problems you pointed out with your example here is the fact that sometimes there are very small amounts involved that an individual's not going to want to pursue a case and hire an attorney and be able to pay the attorney to proceed, but the violation may be going on and harming a large number of people, and it would otherwise not be redressed. And through the class action vehicle, when companies misbehave, this is a possible way to get redress.
Well, okay, here's an example. I'm looking at a check that I received a month ago. I don't even remember being a part of this class action suit.
Yeah.
And it's a check for $18.04, and it has to do with foreign currency fee litigation settlement. So apparently what had happened was I had traveled to Europe back, I don't know, 5-6 years ago, and I must have used an ATM card or a Visa card,
Yeah.
and I got charged a little bit for that, and maybe I got charged too much. Well, I can see your point where it's like, am I gonna go sue the company for, and I have no idea if I should have gotten more than $18 or less than $18, but am I gonna hire an attorney for that?
So I guess it's really a vehicle for addressing issues like that, where the dollar amount on an individual basis is way too small, but without the class action lawsuit opportunity there, then the public really has no easy way to go after, say, one of the big corporations if they are doing fees that essentially have an unfairness to them.
Yeah, let's take this example that you just mentioned to us about the bank fees, or the credit card fees actually is what you mentioned. I'm not familiar with the case, and I'm going to make assumptions, but let's say that the company did not provide disclosure and have approval to charge a foreign currency fee, and yet they decided to do it and charge all these fees, and the individuals weren't contractually obligated to pay it. You went to Europe and you said that the amount was how much?
Well, the check is $18.04. The actual case here apparently was $49.5 million was the settlement. Now, I don't know if it should have been $100 million or if it was $10 million.
Well,
but they settled for $49 million and over $13.5 million.
Well, we don't know any of the facts or the name of
No.
the case, but if it settled for that amount, it may have been a larger amount that was at issue, and they
Sure.
reached a settlement. But if it's $49 million and your amount was $18, that's an awful lot of people that had this happen to them. And
Unless it was $45 million in attorney's fees.
Yeah, no, it was $13 million in attorney's fees.
Oh,
So-
okay, you know that.
So it was a roughly $50 million settlement, of which $13.5 million goes.
what the public's not hearing about in these class action suits is there's a defense lawyer. And I shouldn't say lawyers, it's usually law firms, and it may be several of them defending the case. And how much did they spend and get paid? And the question is, not should we have this vehicle, but are the cases meritorious? And are there real claims here? And I think that if you look around and see enough of these cases, there are many cases that would not be prosecuted without the class action vehicle. Payday lending is an area where there's a lot of people that have problems in it. Employment litigation, there's a lot of issues there that are being brought in class actions. So should the individual consumer and groups of consumers have a right to have the law enforced? And this is a method to do that.
So I guess the first thing they do is they go to the court and ask them to certify it as a class action.
When a class action suit is brought by a lawyer as a class action, they have to allege what the class consists of. Everyone that used a certain credit card internationally and was charged these fees, and then they have to explain why the same issue predominates for the members of the class. That's called class certification.
Yeah, because not every circumstance could be the same, but there has to be enough similarities.
That's right, and courts will, early on in the case, and a lot of time and effort is spent, will certify or not certify. Sometimes courts decline to bring the case as a class action, and then the individual's left with a lawsuit, probably for a smaller amount of money, and it may not proceed for anybody.
Yeah, I was going to say, do the attorneys at that point walk away and say, "Sorry, Mr. Jones, your $60
Well, it's
not worth it."
It's a relationship between that attorney and that client, and they have to make a decision at that point. But there are cases where a court declines to certify. There are a lot of other cases where courts do certify. And then behind all of these pleadings as to whether or not it should be a class, there is also the actual lawsuit claim. In this case, something about the foreign currency charges was the allegation, I take it.
So what is that first step? I mean, somebody decides, I've been wrong, goes and sees an attorney, and the attorney says, gosh, you're probably one of a million people this happened to? I mean, is that kind of the question?
Individuals come to their lawyers with a problem, and through the discussion, they may determine that the problem affects a large number of people, and it's essentially the same problem. With consumer contracts, most consumers sign identical contracts with large
Sure.
corporations, so there may, if there is a problem, it may be
Usually forced
affecting
to
a class.
arbitrate it first,
But
you
but
know?
there can be problems with consumer contracts that'll never be certified as a class. For example, if they misbill your electric bill, and it was just a mistake for your particular unit,
Sure.
that's not going to be a class problem.
And then I'm assuming, because it's a pretty specialized area of the law, the average attorney shouldn't try to handle it,
Well-
unless he's specialized in that area.
Well, law is a very complex practice these days. And you mentioned that I am a specialist in class suits. My firm does class action lawsuits. I'm actually specialized by the State Bar of California in franchise and distribution law. There isn't a specialization for class action
Oh, okay.
litigation itself.
Wow. Well, we are going to cut to our first commercial break, and here is the first trivia question. And again, remember, it's Death on TV, where the actor was knocked off on the show. All right. In the 1980s, and we're talking law, so let's talk with the old 1980s TV show, L.A. Law. How did Rosalind Shea die? You have to know the show in order to know this. The first three callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. On the 1980s TV show, L.A. Law, how did Rosalind Shea die? 888-912-1190. Make sure to include your name, address, email address, and phone number. Make sure you spell it and say it slowly, please. And we will be right back. Okay.
Kept thinking we were running along on that one, but.
We did. I didn't forget to start the this clock.
I kept looking at my thing as it was approaching 10 minutes, thinking, okay, well, I shouldn't ask a question because we're gonna be, and then it kept going and going.
Yeah. So let's see here. Let me see what.
So if one runs too long, you gotta shorten up the next one.
Yeah, we
Well,
have.
You're listening to the
So,
best of
hold on a second.
investing. This is the show where
I'm gonna see how. Oh, okay. And having fun?
Oh, yeah, this is,
Alright.
you lost your cough, fine.
Yeah, can't do that in the air. That doesn't
Yeah.
work very well. Okay, so file, save.
So I'll ask the intro question after the
Okay.
break.
Which question?
Oh, I want to ask about, talking about the class action lawsuits where you get $10. I mean, what about, let's talk about ones where there are, examples of maybe significant payouts. I'm assuming you could probably talk about some that had, there's a significant payout. And then I'll probably bring up also the example of the timeshare. We had a number of timeshare, and it turns out that a group of California residents who felt they were being wronged by the billing.
Yeah, because in this case, you're the one who's being asked for money versus the other way around.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Okay. All right, so now let's go to. Start it. Okay. And one quick thing I need to do, I've got the, let's see here. The snow mission in thing, I needed to read that. So, hopefully I still have that in here. Beautiful. didn't forget it. Just forgot to do it on, yeah. So let me just set this up. Here. Peter in there. I mean, I'll have Mark in there. Okay. Make sure that's great. We're still recording, right? Yeah. So I'm going to do this when I read this. After you finish with your question, I'll get into the Honda.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, ready?
Yep.
Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with my co-host, Mark Hanf of Pacific Private Money. When we cut to the first commercial break, we ask this first trivia question. And the theme is death on TV episodes. In the 1980s, there was a TV show called L.A. Law. How did Rosalind Shea die? Now, I'm not going to ask the attorney first, because I don't know if he knows it. Mark, do you know
That
the
was
answer?
my favorite show back then, but you know, I'm thinking, was it cancer?
No. Do you remember?
Some-
She fell down an elevator
I was
shaft.
gonna say an
You're gonna
elevator.
say, so you're gonna
Oh.
say that. Get a little closer. Get it a little
Elevator,
closer.
yeah.
Elevator. There we go. Okay. We have in the studio with us Peter Lagarias, who is a specialist with class action suits. Or actually, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So, Mark, you were going to lead in with a question.
Yeah, we had, we talked last segment about how, oftentimes these class action suits are against large companies, and oftentimes it's for maybe an overcharging of a fee, and the payoff to the individual client's usually not that much. But can you give us some examples of class action suits where the payoffs were considerable to the participants?
Well, a good example is a group of Exxon franchisees filed a lawsuit regarding price conduct. They were getting gasoline and there were other charges involved, and that case actually was a class action that was tried in a court of law. It didn't settle, and it was enormous amounts of money because of the volume of transactions going on in a franchisee dealership.
How many franchisees were there?
I don't remember, you're putting me
I
on
mean,
the spot for
but it
the
can't be
number.
millions. I mean,
No. There were probably thousands, but I'm not even
Wow,
certain of
that
that.
much, okay, yeah.
But there were many franchisees, and it was a class, and it went to trial. Wage and hour and misclassification of overtime.
Oh, right, we read about those quite often.
And those can be substantial. There was a class that was certified for discrimination against women in the Walmart system
yeah.
that went all the way to the Supreme Court, and they turned it down for class certification.
Really?
And that was going to involve many women that were employed by Walmart, but ultimately the Supreme Court declined to certify it.
Well, and I'm just thinking, this is the perception. Like, I'm not saying this is my perception, but I think the perception is that class action attorneys are sort of out there like ambulance chasers looking for these kinds of cases, rather than a situation where, like the Exxon case, where you have a plaintiff coming and saying, look, I know this is wrong, and how much would it cost each franchisee to hire his own attorney for basically the same kind of claim, right?
Well, where is the outrage for the corporations spending all the money to defend?
That's a good point.
Right, those could be profits to shareholders.
Yeah.
Well, but the fact is that the defendants in these cases are paying the lawyers all along, and nobody seems to be outraged with those
But they're
lawyers.
not the ones who are starting it, though, right? Someone's bringing them a case where suddenly they now have to hire attorneys.
Well, should individuals in the United States of America be entitled to file lawsuits if they've been aggrieved? And the answer ought to be yes.
Yeah.
And Will some lawsuits be filed that aren't meritorious? Yes.
But that happens
But-
whether it's a class action
Right,
or not.
exactly.
I mean, it's basically, it's economies of scale. is really what we're doing.
There's a good word to use with class actions, and in fact, as a matter of legal theory, the courts would be swamped if you have a class of
That's a
a
good
million
point,
people that had this credit card transactions, and they were all bringing their individual lawsuits. The courts could not handle it.
Well, that brings me to the most recent case that has been in the news, and this has to do with Honda. And there is a woman who's deciding not to join the class action suit, and basically the suit has to do with mileage. Apparently she bought the car thinking she was going to get 50 or 60 miles to the gallon because it's a hybrid, and apparently it's being determined that she's only getting about 30 miles per gallon.
That's
So
a big difference.
That's a pretty good sized difference, and I guess they're trying to prove that Honda's to blame for this. So there's a class action suit going on, and she's deciding that she happens to be coincidentally an attorney, but she's not acting as an attorney in this case, she's acting as just a plaintiff. And she's deciding that it's better for her, because I guess the dollar amount involved, to go to small claims court, which is now $10,000. So I was gonna ask Peter on this, like, at what point does one decide, no, I wanna do a small claims court on my own case, because here was one of the advantages that she thought was the fact that in small claims court, the defense, or in either one actually, gets to have lawyers in the courtroom. So Honda, if they respond to this, or don't respond, they're gonna need to have some employee who's not an attorney represent them. So, how does one decide, like, what's?
Well, an individual going to an attorney seeking representation has to present their case, and during a discussion with the attorney, it may come up, the individual may think about a class action on their own, or they may ask the attorney about it, or the attorney may find out, well, are there other people that this is happening to help prove the case, and it may come out. Bringing a class action requires an individual to be the named class representative, and sometimes more than one will be named. And that person has special duties, because they're not just bringing the case for themselves, but they're bringing it on behalf of a class.
And as a potential claimant, you can opt out. I mean, not everybody has to be part of the lawsuit, like this lady. She's saying, no, I'm gonna opt out and do my own case.
Yeah.
So she has a choice.
That is correct. When a class is certified, the court will notify all of the class members, and there's an issue about who pays for that, but it's typically done by a postcard or something like that. And individuals can make a decision, and they can decide, I don't want to be part of this class. Now, there's some other exceptions to this rule. In some instances, you're automatically included unless you opt out. But in most cases, you're not. You need to make this decision.
To actually opt in.
So you get that thing in the mail where you're supposed to take some kind of action. It tells you.
It tells you you have a period of time to opt out.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that's kind of the best of both worlds, because then at least it's up to the individual person.
Mhm.
They may say, you know what, if I do have a claim here, okay, I'll take it on myself and try to figure out who to sue, which is usually kind of hard to do. But hey, there's a couple of quick lawsuit type things I thought were kind of funny that the audience may be interested in. If you can't sue the system, sue yourself. In 1995, this gentleman sued himself for $5 million. He claimed he had violated his own civil rights and religious beliefs by allowing himself to get drunk and commit crimes, which landed him in some correctional facility, serving a 23-year sentence for grand larceny. And let's see, what could he possibly have gained by suing himself? Since being in prison prevented him from having an income he expected the state to pay. The case was thrown out. Here's another one. Mistaken for a superstar. This is kind of a fun one. How insulting. In 2006, this gentleman sued Michael Jordan and Nike for $832 million. He claimed to suffer defamation, permanent injury, and emotional pain and suffering because people often mistook him for the basketball star. Yeah, that's gotta be bad, huh?
That's one way to try to game the system.
Yeah. Now, Peter, how do people get a hold of you if they have a potential class action suit?
We are located in San Rafael, and they can call us at 415-460-0100, extension 111 is my number. We also have a website, Lagarias and Bolter LLP, that they can look us up and contact us through the internet.
Okay, Mark, do you have any last minute questions?
Yeah, well, I have one that, like a class action that actually kind of hit home for me. I'm a member of a timeshare, and that timeshare did a special assessment in addition to the, rather expensive annual maintenance fees that you pay, like nearly $1,000 for most decent timeshares. And, well, we got this bill in the mail for a special assessment for $2,000, which we didn't pay, and apparently a lot of others didn't pay either. And a group apparently got together, and they were able to put a class, obviously large enough, but not a big class, certainly not involving thousands or millions of people, but they successfully sued in California this vacation club, and it was determined that those special assessments were not legal. So that was there was an example of a relatively small group of people getting together and successfully suing in a class.
Well, and actually, in that case, rather than the typical situation where you're the plaintiffs trying to extract money, you guys were the defendants.
Yeah.
Trying to not pay.
Well, if they were sued, they were defendants. They may have filed what we call a declaratory relief
Okay,
action.
you're
Right.
a little bit too particular here. I'm a layman, remember, I get to use these terms, but. Okay, we are going to cut to our second commercial break, and here is the trivia question, which I know Mark's going to answer because he loves Seinfeld. And remember, the theme is death on TV shows. In Seinfeld, how did George's fiancée, Susan, die? Mark's smiling already. The first three callers with the correct answer. We always have to have interesting deaths here, too. The first three callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouse4fun.com. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. On Seinfeld, how did George's fiancée, Susan, die? Call 888-912-1190. Mark, you didn't need to write it down. I know you know this off the top of your head. Make sure to include your name, address, email address, spell it slowly and spell it out, please. Or say it slowly and spell it out. And phone number, and we will be right back. You both know the answer to that
Yeah,
one.
I know the answer to that one.
Oh, yeah. we TiVos Seinfeld, so we always have like 30 or 40 ones to choose from to fall asleep to.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I should give you the,
Oh, do you? Yeah.
They're
Did
on
she-
at KTVU.
Mark? Didn't she die from licking the
No,
envelopes?
licking the
That's
envelopes,
it.
yeah.
Oh.
He's about
Yeah, you're-
Glue poisoning or cheap
Yeah.
glue.
Yeah, cheap glue.
Cheap glue on the envelopes.
George wanted to get the cheap envelopes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it worked out for him because he really didn't want to marry her.
That's right. 'Cause
So,
Jerry was
a word
supposed
to
to
the
get married
wise.
at the same time, and he reneged.
Yes, exactly.
We had a pact.
Was that the same episode as the puffy shirt?
But you know, it's hard to remember which ones go with
Go-
other ones.
I know,
Yeah,
the
the
puffy
puffy shirt.
shirt.
But I don't want to be a cowboy pirate. Yeah, I like that. Go ahead and mention that. That's fun. Okay. Doing great.
Yeah.
Oh, what do you want to cover in 3? We're going into email time?
Yeah.
Then we'll get into your shtick, and then the last one we'll just kind of cover general what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys ready?
Ready?
Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hahn of Pacific Private Money. And when we cut to the second commercial break, we asked this trivia question. And again, remember the theme is death on TV shows. On Seinfeld, how did George's fiancée Susan die? All right, guys, all 1, 2, 3.
Licking the envelopes.
Licking envelopes.
Envelopes. And what episode did you also think that was on?
Well, I wondered if it was part of the puffy shirt
Well,
episode.
I don't want to be a cowboy. Or no, not a
Pirate,
cowboy. I don't
pirate.
pirate. I
Yeah,
don't
George
want to be a
wanted to
pirate.
pick out the cheap wedding invitations and I guess the cheap glue on the envelopes.
She licked poisonous envelopes.
Poison-
That's a tough one there.
Poisonous glue on the envelopes.
Okay, Mark, we received an email for you, and the question is, if I invest with you, how long until my funds are invested? In other words, if this person gives you money, how long will it sit around not earning interest until you're ready to place it into one of your deeds of trust? And remind our
Oh,
listeners
sure,
what you do for a living.
sure, good question. Well, I'm president of Pacific Private Money. We're based in Nevada. We're a private lender to real estate investors. We make real estate secured loans. Those are loans that are funded by private individuals, and those loans are made secured by real estate in the Bay Area. So we're a local private money lender. Our borrower clients are generally real estate investors, people out there buying bank-owned properties or maybe buying rental property. And our lenders are just private individuals looking for high yields, high secured yields on their savings. As we know, banks pay nearly nothing, and the stock market for a lot of people has had its wild swings up and down. Of course, we've all been witness to that over the last 10 years. But even more so, even if you have stock and equities and other investments, it's always a good idea to diversify. A strong proponent of diversification, and if you want to look at options for diversification, you really owe it to yourself to look at what's known in the industry as trust deed investing or trust deed secured notes. It's essentially where you, the investor, become actually the lender. You're the bank. So at Pacific Private Money, we promote our business to two different types of clients. We have our borrower clients, and we have our lender clients. And so our lender clients will use their savings or their IRA or their trust funds, and they will fund notes that we originate, underwrite, and document to real estate investors. We do the note and the deed of trust. Everything's handled by local title companies. Everything's insured and secured. So the question...
I think that's the main thing that people have to understand is that their money is secured by the deed of trust.
It's a
got
financial
collateral.
instrument. I mean, we call it trust deed investing, but it's technically not investing. When you put funds in, when you loan your funds in this manner, it's a security instrument. It's a financial instrument. So you have all the rights and remedies as would Bank of America or Wells Fargo when they make a loan secured by a property. So in this case, the question is once an investor invests their money, when did they start earning? And the good news about how we operate at Pacific Private Money, and I know many private lenders operate this way, is we do what's called individual trust deed secured notes. In other words, we don't have a mortgage pool. A mortgage pool is where you pool funds together of many individuals, and you have an interest in that fund, not in any individual piece of real estate. What we do by doing individual trust deeds is that we underwrite a loan secured by a specific property. The money's being lent to a specific borrower, and we distribute the opportunity. Once we underwrite the loan and we decide we like this loan, this is a loan that we would fund ourselves with our own money, so we're going to make this available to our stable of investors. So we prepare an executive summary, 1 page. We distribute that via email to our stable of investors, our growing stable of investors, I might add. It's with the kind of rates that you get at the bank nowadays, a lot of people are seeking higher yields, so it's a great time to be looking at this type of investment.
What kind of yields are you giving clients right now?
8 to 10%.
That's amazing.
It is amazing, yeah. In short-term notes, we're talking maybe 1, 2, 3 years at the most. So these are short-term investments.
Well,
so.
and the big thing I like about what you do compared to the mortgage pools is that the individuals actually get to see where their money is invested. Whereas when you're in a pool, you don't have any choice. It could be over here, it could be over there. So it's a lot better.
Well,
to know
that's exactly
specifically.
right. And you also get you decide the collateral. I mean, many of my investors, when they turn down a funding opportunity, they say to me, I wouldn't want to own that property. Because they're always looking ahead. They're going, well, if I
Smart.
make a
Very
loan to this person secured by this particular property in the Bay Area, if this lender defaults and I have to foreclose, would I want to own that property? And that's really the smart trust deed investor usually goes through that thought process. So let's get back, because I didn't actually answer the
Sorry.
question.
Yeah.
So The answer is you start earning at the bargained rate from the day you wire your funds. So we prepare all of the loan documents for execution by the borrower. The borrower goes to the title company, executes everything. The title company, when they're ready to insure the transaction, they call us and say, we're ready for lender funds. We alert our lender, and this all happens very, very quickly. Within a few days, we're talking about a 3 or 4 day process from document creation, execution,
So they're not,
to
their money is
funding,
not
to
sitting
closing.
idle.
No, well, it doesn't sit, yeah, well, it's sitting idle to the extent that they have liquid funds in their bank account that they've decided they want to invest in a trustee secured
Sure.
note. But once they've decided, based on the document that we've sent them for distribution, once they've called me and said, hey, I like that funding opportunity you sent me, can I get some more information? Can I get a copy of the credit report or the loan application or the appraisal? They'll get that information, and generally, again, it tends to be a pretty quick decision-making process. A lot of my investors kind of know the routine now, and so within a few days, they will generally, someone will commit to that loan. We'll draw the loan documents in their name. The documents get executed by the borrower, and then we're ready for them to wire their funds to the title company. So the day they wire their funds to the title company is the day it starts earning interest at the investor yield. And the investor yield is typically the note rate minus 1%. So if it's an 11% note, they're earning at 10%. We
Very
get
fair.
I have a couple questions for you, Mark.
Absolutely.
Are these first in position loans, or are they seconds, or sometimes even thirds? And two, does each investor have to take the whole loan, or do you sometimes put 2 or 3 investors together to take over a loan?
At Pacific, last year, 2011, which we just closed out, we did nearly 160 loans. Of those 160 loans, I would say only 10 were seconds. The rest were firsts. We have it's really a different market today than, say, 10 years ago. If you invested in deeds of trust 10 years ago, it was highly likely. I mean, it was almost guaranteed you were doing seconds. Bank financing was so easy to get that just about anybody could get a bank loan, and generally speaking, you were looking for a second if you had bad credit. So most of the loans today that we do are first position loans.
And again, the investor gets to choose whether or not he wants to
Right,
do loans.
some
so he
seconds
knows
make
he's getting
sense.
in, yeah.
If there's a super low first on the property, and maybe
Yeah.
it's got it's 4% rate and they wanna keep it, and the combined loan to value is, say, 50% or less with that second, then oftentimes
Sure, makes sense.
we'll underwrite a second. So the answer to the second question is, we generally like to do one lender to one loan. I have a lot of fairly sophisticated trustee investors who prefer to own the whole note, and our average loan size is about $200,000. The vast majority of the 160 loans we did last year fell between $100,000 and $300,000, with the median being right around $200,000 to $225,000. So most of our investors are well heeled enough in their investable funds to take that whole note. But that won't say that we don't do fractional lending, because we do. We've done loans close to, say, $1 million, and maybe we have 4 or 5 investors who want to go into that in fractional. So we do both.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mark. We are going to cut to our third and final trivia question. His death on MASH ushered in Colonel Sherman Potter. Who was it? In other words, who's the guy who died in order to usher in Sherman Potter? The first 3 callers with the correct answer win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Their website is lighthouseforfun.com. Call 888-912-1190. That's 888-912-1190 to answer this question. His death on the TV show MASH ushered in Colonel Sherman Potter. Who was it? Call 888-912-1190. Make sure to include your name, address, email address, and phone number, and we will be right back.
I'm gonna blow that one. I don't remember.
You don't remember that
I
one?
know. I
The only
remember
one I
his face.
remember is Hawkeye, but it's not him.
Well, I'm remembering the face of the Colonel before Potter.
That's
Who
right.
was a
Yeah.
little bit more of a,
Less Army.
less Army. Yeah, he's more of a joking kind of guy. And I can't remember his name though.
And you just have to wait.
And of course there was, and then there was BJ's sidekick who changed. There was BJ Honeycutt at first, and then
Trapper John was before that.
Trapper John was
Trapper
first, and
John.
BJ was second. That's right. But the one on who preceded Colonel Potter? Dang.
Alan Alda.
No.
No.
NASCAR. That would be Brian's answer.
Yeah, NASCAR. I gotta get a NASCAR question in for him. Good guy.
What was the gal's name? What was her character?
Oh,
The
Hot
blonde,
Lips
Hot
Houlihan.
Lips Houlihan. Yeah.
That was the one that we all used to tape. That was pre-TiVo. We used to have
Yeah, the
backup tapes.
V-
and watch
VHS.
MASH every night, MASH reruns.
Yeah.
Peter, can you just pull your headsets and just like this?
Channel,
What?
17.
Pull your headsets
So it
and do
was
it
MASH
just like.
reruns,
Yeah.
then it was Cheers
That-
reruns.
That way we know we're on break.
Okay.
and
Thank
then
you.
It was, what was
Sorry,
after
I'm not a
Cheers?
professional at this stuff.
Mine are so small,
Near
you can't
mine.
tell anyway. You're you, yeah. Okay, then I'll read the question, we'll do the answer, and then I'll get the special trivia.
Oh, okay, good. And I've got some stuff on the housing market, which is kind of interesting article.
Oh, good,
So-
okay. One thing I wanna check here. Cause this way you can tell exactly how long.
Remember, if you guys want to engage in a little conversation, because
Oh,
we're,
okay,
we're
so
short.
Oh, are we?
We're
Oh,
running
yeah.
short.
We're
We got
gonna
56 minutes to fill.
What kind of advertising are you gonna do if you got 56 minutes?
None.
Well-
Yeah, you built your own in already.
No,
but-
well, no,
No.
for the show here, it's filled in with this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
On the radio, they have the commercials all set.
Yeah, but it's only 4 minutes of them. This is an hour program, right?
Yeah, well, no, what happens is they take, so many minutes, they
Yeah.
take like 8 minutes, so it's really 52. And so from the 52, we'll have about 6 to 10 minutes of advertising, because a couple of people dropped off, so I took them out. That gives us more time to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay,
I didn't bring my my new 30-second spot again today. I was manic to get down here in time. But so thanks for those questions. Those were good.
Yeah, those are really good.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, no, I
Do you have
just was
do you have a
thinking.
familiarity with the industry?
Well, not, it's not something I specialize in, but yeah, when you have a small law firm, you wind up doing lots of
Welcome,
different.
you're listening to the
things.
best
Yeah.
of investing.
Actually, Jeff Lerman and his wife are in my stable of investors. Jeff, being a real estate attorney, he's actually pretty bullish on that. Apparently, particularly since he had made several purchases in the last few years that didn't really pan out, and what many former real estate investors were finding, that the difference between what they were making by like buying and flipping or investing, the yields they were seeing weren't that much more, and sometimes even less than they could get by just lending the money to somebody else.
Yeah, let
You
them
know?
take the risk.
Right, so if you can get 10% and forget about it and work on something completely different, or buy, fix, and flip and spend all your time and energy on that and make 15%. I don't know that it's worth it, that
No,
extra
no.
5%, because you can go out and make money elsewhere, so.
And are a lot of these people, investors that are trying to buy it and flip it, or are they just people that are short cash right now, or you don't know, or?
Oh, the
borrowers.
Well, the borrowers are, the borrowers are guys that, generally speaking, aren't awash in cash, or they're talented rehabbers. Some of them are contractors. This is what
Yeah.
they do.
Yeah.
So they've been
They need
doing
the
it for
money, yeah.
years. They did it in the heyday of the early 2000s, and now they're doing it again, taking advantage of the fact that you can buy properties so dirt cheap now. The biggest challenge today is that there are an awful lot of people out there buying REO property, and because prices have continued to fall in the last year, what's happened is people have bought, fixed and flipped, put it back on the market, and are making substantially less than they calculated.
Yeah.
And this
Dangerous.
is even guys who are sophisticated
Yeah.
are finding that, because if you bought the property, let's say, and this is a typical scenario, is It's spring 2011, you're running around making offers on property, you finally get one, goes into escrow, you come to someone like me to get a hard money loan to help you purchase the property, you close, takes a couple of months for that all to happen, then you're working on the property, you put it on the market. Properties that went on the market in the fourth quarter of 2011, a lot of them remain unsold. So here we are, it's January, you're trying to sell property you acquired in the first half of 2011, and
Your loan's
housing,
coming due.
well, yeah, your loans go, well, the housing prices in some markets have fallen as much as 10%. And there goes your margin. So you're now looking at making, a fraction of a return, as opposed to maybe the $30,000 to $50,000 profit you were hoping to make. Now you're looking at maybe squeaking out 10, if even any. So it's anyway, it's an interesting market. If you've got a sharp pencil and a fast crew, there's always good money to be made in real estate if you can work in 120-day chunks, 90 to 120-day chunks of time. But if you've got a project that's run long, you're not real happy right now. Yeah.
Okay, you guys ready?
We're ready.
Okay. Here we go. Welcome back to the Best of Investing. I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Mark Hunt of Pacific Private Money. When we come to the third break, we asked this trivia question. His death on MASH ushered in Colonel Sherman Potter. Anybody?
No, you stumped the
Co-host
co-host
and
and
the guest.
Yeah.
Colonel Henry Blake.
Blake, that was
yeah.
it.
Remember he died over the Sea of Japan?
I could see his face in my mind, but I couldn't remember the name.
Okay, now we had a special trivia contest a couple of weeks ago. We were preempted last week by Cal Basketball, so we weren't able to give the answer. But first of all, the Fairmont Sonoma Mission Inn is the ultimate wine country destination.
Indeed it is.
It sure is. Blessed by natural mineral hot springs in the heart of California wine country, the destination resort is home to the Willow Stream Spa and Michelin Award-winning Sante dining room. Guests of the inn also retain exclusive privileges to neighboring Sonoma Golf Club. For hundreds of years, ancient thermal mineral waters have graced this site. Today, our California resort is proud to be one of the only luxury spa resorts in the country with its own source of thermal water. If relaxation and play are what you're after, the Fairmont Sonoma Mission Inn and Spa Resort is pleased to present special wine country packages that look after all the details of your vacation, from accommodations to green fees to spa treatments. With selections that are built around the inn's facilities, our Sonoma vacation packages cater to the discerning travelers and guarantee the total Fairmont experience. You can call them at 707-938-9000 or visit them at www.fairmont.com/Sonoma.
I've gone there in my mind.
Let's go.
Oh, it's a fantastic place. And here was the special trivia contest question. There were 6 Rocky movies. Now we see Rocky win some and we see him lose some in the ring. What was Rocky's record by the end of Rocky 6? Okay, now you had to name each opponent and whether Rocky won or lost. Here's the answer. Now most people knew in Rocky 1 that Rocky lost to Apollo Creed.
Yep.
They also got that in Rocky 2, Rocky beat Apollo Creed. Most also knew that in Rocky 3, Rocky lost to Clubber Lang, Mr. T, and then beat Clubber Lang. Then we started to drop off. In Rocky 4, Rocky beats Drago,
That's
the Russian.
right, Russian.
Right? And then Rocky did not fight in the ring in Rocky 5. In Rocky 6, the movie Rocky Balboa, not Rocky 38, he wears the pens. That's getting way out there. Okay. Rocky then loses to Mason the Line Dixon. And now it got really tricky. Most people forgot that in Rocky's first fight in the ring was against Spider Rico, which Rocky wins. Thus, his record was 4 wins, 3 losses. Almost everybody forgot about that fight, but the winner was Jim from San Francisco, and congratulations. And
Wow,
Mark,
that's good.
That's pretty good.
What
Okay.
about Rambo?
Yeah, that's a whole other series.
There you
Okay, Mark, tell us what else is going on in real estate.
Well, it's it was an interesting 2011, and it's the beginning of the year, and we're looking forward to 2012, and most of us who are real estate investors and looking at the market, and of course real estate is such an important component to the recovery of our economy, and so a lot of people are wondering, well, what's the outlook ahead? And I read an interesting article this week that and it was written by a gentleman who's written quite a few articles this past year. In fact, he works at with First Tuesday, which is a leading source of California real estate information, and he's works in their department that charts trends in the industry. And he had an article that the first part of the article just talked about November home sales. Okay, well, pretty much 2011 was a year of it goes up, then it goes down, then it goes up, then it goes down. They call it kind of the washboard effect, and it's really been a flat, slightly declining market looking backwards. And what's it going to take to change that? I mean, can we look ahead to 2012 to be a similar year? Another washboard effect, a little bit up, a little bit down, maybe trending even a little bit downward, because again, no one really knows. Where is the bottom? Have we hit the bottom? Are we going to trend up? But
what does your crystal ball say?
Well, my crystal ball has always been a little bit on the dirty side, unfortunately. But again, I try to study,
keep
and
it clean, keep it clean.
I try to study by reading these blogs from other people who are hopefully a lot smarter than I am when it comes to some of this stuff. And I found his reasoning pretty interesting, and the statistics behind what he thought. And he doesn't really predict one direction or another, other than to say that really, if you look back on previous real estate recessions and what it took to come out of them and to find to have real estate appreciate once more, it's really comes down to jobs. And we've talked about that on this show previously. Is that really only he says here only statewide employment gains of, and he throws out a number, 400,000 or more jobs annually for a couple of years, as took place in the late 1990s, can produce a full recovery for California's real estate market. And basically he's saying in the absence of job increases, and with that obviously an uptick in consumer confidence, which we don't have very much right now.
Too much.
Low interest rates and home prices remain the sole drivers of real estate sales volume right now. So when you think about that, if it's really, sales volume is really only driven by low interest rates and and low home prices, what's bound to happen is and he says it in the article, any significant increase in sales volume or prices is going to lead to a corresponding rise in interest rates, which also will then put a damper on it, on any recovery. So the net of it is that it doesn't look like the factors are there, the metrics are there for any kind of bubble in real estate. We're not likely to see easy money in the coming years. Certainly not like we saw in the early 2000s. At least.
But I want easy money. I'm looking at Peter. He's looking at me.
Low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, exactly. How do I get that easy money, Mark?
So so the question kind of is any of this really bad news? I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
I don't hear it as good news yet.
Well, it depends. If real estate appreciates at the price of inflation, certainly real estate is not going to drive the job market. I mean, we're really looking at other factors, the economy, to pick up the pieces there. But
because construction's still down.
Yeah, but certainly in what I'm trying to, my point is saying is that bad news is I don't know that it was good news. Looking back, what happened in the early 2000s. I know a lot of people made money by flipping property, but it certainly hurt a lot of people, and people certainly got hurt in the downturn after the froth, post-froth, and
Well, I
in
think
2007.
well, I agree also with it's very similar to like what happened in the .com industry, where the rents went through the roof.
Mhm.
I mean, some people were paying $10 a foot. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And and so a lot of the landlords took advantage of that in the beginning, but then they just got slammed when everything bomb happened.
I just like the idea of a market.
Inflation is good.
I like the idea of a market that doesn't have irrational exuberance.
Exactly.
We were talking during the commercial break that essentially there's still money to be made in the real estate market. I mean, housing prices are ridiculously low right now, and you can buy property to hold for rental income which is a great buy right now. It's a great investment. Also, you can buy, fix, and flip if you know what you're doing,
Yeah.
and you're fast, because if you can move in and out of this market in 90 to 120 day time periods, you can still make good money fixing and
The
flipping
fixing and
houses.
flipping, I would think would be good for the contractors, because they know, they can pencil things out probably a little better than
Absolutely.
a regular investor can.
So if you're a contractor out there and you're wondering how you can buy more property, be sure to visit our website at pacificprivatemoney.com, because most of the loans that we do at Pacific Private Money are to contractors and real estate investors to help them buy real estate to fix and flip. We make short-term loans, we make longer-term loans if you're looking to buy a rental property to hold for a while, but that's really the play. It's
Yeah.
short-term fix and flipping, having your numbers dialed in and your team ready, as well as collecting.
And a lot of those people, they can't get loans at conventional banks. And sometimes even if they can, the advantage you have is that you can give speed.
It's speed, right.
Yeah.
If
You
your
know,
bank
you
says they'll
lose
make
back
you a
something.
loan to help you buy rental property, oftentimes it's a 45-day process. So
Yeah.
that's.
And sometimes these investors can get smashing deals because they can close it in 3 weeks or 2 weeks.
Right, or 4 or 5 days. I mean,
Yeah, that's amazing if you do
we
that
oftentimes get calls, it'll be Wednesday, and they gotta close by, next week, Tuesday. So, 4 or 5 business days, the banks will take 45, we can close in 4 to 5 business days. So it's a big difference.
You kind of wonder what kind of deal they're getting if they need to close in 4 or 5 days. And it may not be that it was that quick. It may be that they applied for a regular loan. They had maybe 60 days to close, and they
Yeah.
thought everything was fine, and suddenly their bank pulled out at the last minute, and now they have money up, non-refundable deposit. They still have a smashing deal, and now they have to go hard money.
A lot of phone calls we get are frantic for that very reason. Their bank financing just fell out, they're looking at losing their deposit, and they're looking for us to come save the day.
All right, thank you very much. A couple thoughts for the day here. Why do some books have blank pages at the end? You ever wonder about that?
For coloring, of course.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay, now I know the answer. And, yeah, I'm sure you've seen that before. Okay, and how come you can kill a deer and put it on your wall, but it's illegal to keep one as a pet? Huh? Answer me that one. Silence. I thought so. Okay. Peter Lagarias, thank you very much for teaching us about class action lawsuits. Tune in next week to The Best of Investing. We're going to be giving away 9 more free vacations for answering trivia questions. Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm Edward Brown, wishing you the best of investing. So long. And that's a wrap.
Indeed.
Okay.